Dr. Sarah Chun pulled her thick coat tighter against the biting Siberian wind. The snow crunched under her boots as she walked toward the strange readings on her scanner. She had been digging in this frozen wasteland for 3 weeks now, looking for old human settlements. But what her machines were telling her made no sense at all. "Professor Chun," called out Marcus, her young assistant. He was breathing hard from running through the snow. "You need to see this right now." Sarah looked at the device in Marcus's shaking hands. The screen showed lines and patterns that should not exist. The readings went down deep into the earth, much deeper than any human had ever built anything. "How deep does it go?" Sarah asked. 3 kilometers down," Marcus said. His voice was full of wonder and fear. "And Professor, the shape is not natural. It's too perfect, too straight. Something made this." Sarah stared at the readings. In her 20 years of digging up old things, she had never seen anything like this. The object was huge, maybe the size of 3 football fields. It was buried under thousands of years of ice and dirt. "Get the big digger ready," Sarah said. "We're going down." The next week was the hardest work Sarah had ever done. The team used machines to melt and dig through layers of frozen earth. With each meter they went down, the readings got stronger. Whatever was down there was made of materials that their scanners could barely understand. On the 8th day, Sarah's shovel hit something that was not rock or dirt. It made a sound like hitting metal, but different, cleaner. She brushed away the dirt with her hands and saw something that made her heart stop. The surface was smooth and dark, like looking into deep water at night, but it was not wet. It was solid, harder than any metal she knew. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, symbols that seemed to move when she was not looking directly at them. "Marcus, bring everyone here," Sarah called out. "Bring all the cameras, too." When the team gathered around the hole, they all stared in silence. Even Johnson, who had been digging for 30 years, had no words. "What do you think it is, Professor?" asked Lisa. The team's engineer. Sarah touched the smooth surface with her gloved hand. It was warm, even though they were deep in frozen ground. "I think we found something that was never supposed to be found." They worked for 3 more days to uncover more of the object. The more they dug, the clearer it became that this was not made by humans. The shape was wrong, the materials were impossible, and the energy readings were getting stronger. "Professor," Marcus said on the 3rd day, "the scanners are showing that this thing is still working. Whatever it is, it's not dead." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. "Working how?" "There's power flowing through it, weak but steady, like it's sleeping, not broken." That night, Sarah could not sleep. She sat in her tent, looking at photos of the symbols they had found. She had sent the images to every language expert she knew, but no one could make sense of them. They were not like any writing system from Earth. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Dr. Williams from the university called on the satellite phone. His voice was excited and worried at the same time. "Sarah, those symbols you sent me, I showed them to my daughter Emma. She's the one who's good with patterns and codes. She thinks they're not just random marks." "What does she think they are?" Sarah asked. "She thinks they're trying to talk to us." Sarah felt her hands go cold. "What do you mean? The patterns change in the photos. Look at the first picture you sent, then look at the last one. The symbols are different." "Emma thinks whatever made these symbols is watching us dig it up." Sarah ran to the dig site. She looked at the symbols on the smooth surface, then at the photos from yesterday. Dr. Williams was right. The symbols had changed. They were more complex now, more detailed. "Everyone step back from the object," Sarah ordered. "Right now." The team moved away, but they kept watching. Sarah took out her camera and took a picture of the symbols. Then she waited 5 minutes and took another picture. When she compared them, her breath caught in her throat. The symbols in the second picture were different. They were clearer, brighter, and there were more of them. "It knows we're here," Sarah whispered. That afternoon, 3 black cars arrived at their camp. Men in dark suits got out and walked toward Sarah. The leader was a tall man with cold eyes. "Dr. Chun, I'm Agent Morrison from the government. We need to talk." About what? Sarah asked, but she already knew. About what you found. Our satellites picked up unusual energy readings from this location. We know you found something important. Sarah looked at her team. They all looked scared. It's an archaeological find. Very old, but nothing dangerous. Agent Morrison smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Dr. Chen, our readings show that object is putting out more energy than a small power plant. That's not archaeological. That's a security issue. More cars arrived over the next hour. Scientists, military officers, and people Sarah did not recognize. They all wanted to see what was in the hole, but Sarah noticed something strange. Every time more people gathered around the object, the symbols got brighter and more complex. Whatever was down there was not just aware of them. It was interested. Professor, Marcus whispered to her. Look at this. He showed her his scanner. The energy readings had doubled since the government people arrived. The object was waking up more with each person who came near. That night, Sarah made a decision that would change her life. She waited until the government guards were changing shifts, then she climbed down into the hole alone. She placed her bare hand on the warm surface of the object. The symbols immediately became bright enough to read by. They moved and changed rapidly, forming new patterns. Sarah felt a strange tingling in her mind, like someone was trying to speak to her without words. Then she heard her satellite phone ring. It was Dr. Williams again. Sarah, you need to get Emma here right away, he said. His voice was urgent. She's been studying your photos, and she thinks she's starting to understand what the symbols mean. What do they say? Sarah asked. She thinks they're a warning about something coming. Something that destroyed whoever built this ship. Sarah looked at the bright symbols dancing on the alien surface. Ship, that's what this was. A ship from somewhere else crashed on Earth long before humans learned to write. How long until Emma can get here? Sarah asked. She's already on her way. But Sarah, there's something else. Emma thinks the ship isn't just warning us about something. She thinks it's asking for our help. As Sarah climbed out of the hole, she saw Agent Morrison waiting for her with a flashlight. Dr. Chun, what did you just do? Sarah looked back at the ship. The symbols were still glowing, brighter than before. I think I just answered a call for help that's been waiting 50,000 years for someone to hear it. Agent Morrison followed, her gaze to the glowing symbols. For the first time since he arrived, he looked worried instead of in control. What kind of help? He asked. Sarah pulled her coat tight against the wind. The kind that might save our world? Or end it. Emma Williams arrived at the dig site 3 days later. She was only 19 years old, but her eyes held the kind of intelligence that made older people feel uncomfortable. Sarah watched the young woman climb down into the hole where the alien ship waited. The patterns are beautiful, Emma said, running her fingers just above the glowing symbols. They're not just writing, they're alive. What do you mean alive? Agent Morrison asked. He had been watching Emma closely since she arrived. Look, Emma said, pointing to a group of symbols. When I focus on one section, the others change to support what I'm reading. It's like the ship is helping me understand. Sarah felt a chill of excitement and fear. Can you read what it says? Emma spent the next hour studying the symbols. The alien writing moved and shifted under her gaze, becoming clearer and brighter. Finally, she looked up with wide eyes. It's trying to tell us its name, she said. It calls itself Axiom, and it's been waiting for us. The symbols suddenly flared with brilliant light. Everyone stepped back except Emma, who seemed drawn to the alien surface. Axiom says it needs to show us something important, Emma said. Something about why it came to Earth. Agent Morrison moved toward his radio. I'm calling for backup. This is getting too dangerous. But before he could speak into the radio, the ground around the ship began to glow. Lines of light spread out from the buried vessel, creating a perfect circle around the dig site. Inside the circle, the air became warm despite the freezing Siberian wind. Nobody move, Sarah ordered. Let's see what it wants to show us. The symbols on the ship's surface began to move faster. They formed pictures that everyone could understand even without words. Emma narrated what she saw. It's showing us space, she said. Millions of stars. There are other ships out there, other people like Axiom's builders. The pictures changed. They showed beautiful cities floating in space, worlds covered in gleaming. Towers and creatures that looked almost human but with longer limbs and larger eyes. The Kethver, Emma whispered. That's what they called themselves. The pictures continued. They showed the Kethver Empire spreading across the galaxy, building wonderful things and living in peace for thousands of years. But then the images turned dark. Something's coming, Emma said, her voice filled with dread. Something that destroys everything it touches. The symbols showed massive black ships appearing at the edge of Kethver space. These ships were different from anything the peaceful Kethver had built. They were rough and organic-looking, like they had grown instead of being constructed. Devourers, Emma read from the flowing symbols. They eat whole worlds. The images showed the black ships attacking Kethver planets, but these were not normal battles. The Devourer ships did not just destroy the cities. They consumed them, breaking down everything into basic materials and absorbing it into their own vessels. They don't just kill, Emma said, her face pale. They erase. When they're done with a planet, there's nothing left. No ruins, no evidence that anyone ever lived there. Agent Morrison had stopped trying to call for backup. He stared at the images with growing horror. How many worlds did they destroy? He asked. Emma studied the symbols. All of them. The entire Kethver Empire. Thousands of worlds, billions of people. Gone. The images changed again. They showed a single Kethver ship, damaged and fleeing through space. It was Axiom's ship, the last survivor of a dead civilization. Axiom was a warship, Emma continued, but not built for fighting, built for escaping. When the Kethver realized they couldn't win, they put all their knowledge and technology into ships like this one. They sent them out to find new worlds, new people who might be able to fight the Devourers. Sarah felt her throat go dry, and Axiom came to Earth. 50,000 years ago, Emma confirmed. It was damaged in the escape and crashed here. It's been sleeping ever since, healing itself, and watching humanity grow. The symbols showed images of early humans learning to use tools, building cities, developing technology. Axiom had been watching and learning about the human race for all of recorded history. But why wake up now? Marcus asked. Emma's face went white as she read the answer in the flowing symbols. Because they're coming, the Devourers. They follow a pattern when they spread across the galaxy, and Earth is next on their path. When? Agent Morrison demanded. Emma studied the complex time calculations flowing across the ship's surface. 18 months. Maybe less. The circle of light around the dig site pulsed brighter. More symbols appeared, these ones urgent and demanding. Axiom says it has weapons and technology that can fight the Devourers, Emma said. But there's a problem. The Kethver tried to use their technology against the Devourers and failed. Their weapons, their ships, their defenses, none of it was enough. Then what's the point? Agent Morrison asked. If their technology couldn't save them, how can it save us? Emma smiled for the first time since she had started reading the alien symbols. Because we're different. Axiom has been studying humans for 50,000 years, and it says we have something the Kethver never had. What? Sarah asked. We're unpredictable. The Kethver were very smart, very logical. They built perfect machines and followed perfect plans. But the Devourers learned to predict them, to counter every strategy they tried. The symbols showed more images. Kethver battles against the Devourers always followed the same pattern. The Kethver would use logical tactics, the Devourers would adapt and overcome them, and the Kethver world would fall. But humans are different, Emma continued. We don't always do the logical thing. We improvise, we take crazy risks, we find solutions that don't make sense to anyone else. Agent Morrison looked skeptical. You're saying our weakness is actually our strength? According to Axiom, yes. The Devourers have consumed hundreds of species across the galaxy. All of them were predictable in the end, but humans. Emma paused, reading more symbols. Axiom says it's never seen anything like human creativity and adaptability. The ship's surface suddenly opened. A section of the smooth alien metal folded back like flower petals, revealing a chamber filled with soft blue light. "It wants someone to come inside," Emma said. "It wants to show us the weapons and technology it's been saving." Agent Morrison stepped forward. "I'll go first." "No," Emma said firmly. "It has to be someone who can understand the symbols. Someone it can talk to directly." Sarah looked at her young assistant. "Emma, I don't think we should ask you to take that risk." "I'm not asking for permission," Emma said. She was already climbing toward the opening in the ship. 50,000 years ago, Axiom's people died because they couldn't think outside their perfect logical systems. If humanity is going to survive, we need to learn everything Axiom can teach us. Emma stepped into the blue light and disappeared inside the alien ship. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the symbols on the ship's surface exploded into brilliant patterns that moved too fast for anyone to follow. Agent Morrison grabbed his radio. "This is Morrison. I need immediate evacuation for all non-essential personnel. And get me the president on the line. What do I tell him?" The voice on the radio asked. Morrison looked at the alien ship with Emma somewhere inside it, communicating with a 50,000-year-old artificial intelligence about an invasion that would destroy everything humanity had ever built. "Tell him. We just made first contact," Morrison said, "and we're about to go to war." Inside the ship, Emma felt her mind expanding as Axiom shared its memories and knowledge. She saw the fall of the Kethver Empire not as distant history, but as if she had lived through it herself. She felt the desperation of an entire civilization as they realized they were going to die, but she also felt something else. Hope. For the first time in 50,000 years, Axiom believed it had found a species that might be able to do what the Kethver could not. "Can you teach us to use your weapons?" Emma asked, though she spoke without words in this strange mental connection. "I can teach you more than that," Axiom replied. "I can teach you to make them better." Emma came out of the alien ship 3 hours later, but she was not the same person who had gone in. Her eyes glowed with a faint blue light, and when she spoke, her voice carried strange echoes. "I can see everything now," she said, looking at Sarah with wonder. "All of Axiom's knowledge, all the memories of the Kethver. It's like having a library the size of a planet inside my head." Agent Morrison stepped back nervously. "What did that thing do to you?" Emma touched her forehead where a small blue mark had appeared. "It gave me a neural interface, a way to connect my brain directly to Kethver technology. But Axiom says I'm just the first. We need more people who can think like humans but work with alien machines." Sarah felt worried and excited at the same time. "Is it safe?" "For humans, yes. For the Kethver, it would have been impossible. Their brains were too rigid, too logical. But human brains are flexible. We can adapt to almost anything." Over the next week, scientists and military experts arrived from around the world. The dig site became a temporary city of tents and equipment. Everyone wanted to understand the alien technology, but only a few could actually interface with it. The first volunteer was Colonel Martinez, a fighter pilot who had flown in 3 wars. When he placed his hand on the neural interface device that Axiom had created, his body convulsed for 10 minutes. When he woke up, half his hair had turned white. "I can feel the ship," he whispered. "Every system, every weapon. It's like the ship is part of my body now." But not everyone was so lucky. Dr. Patterson, a nuclear physicist, tried the interface and fell into a coma that lasted 3 days. When he woke up, he could not remember his own name. "The interface is dangerous," Axiom explained through Emma. "Human minds are strong, but not all humans can handle the connection. We must choose carefully." Sarah watched as person after person tried to connect with the alien technology. Out of 50 volunteers, only 12 survived the process with their minds intact. But those 12 became something new. Emma was the strongest of the enhanced humans. She could control multiple alien systems at once, processing information faster than any computer. Colonel Martinez could fly alien ships that had no controls humans could understand, piloting them through pure thought. Dr. Kim, a young engineer, could look at Kethver technology and immediately understand how to improve it. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim said, studying a piece of alien machinery. "This weapon design is thousands of years old, but I can see exactly how to make it better. Smaller, more powerful, more efficient." Axiom was amazed by what the enhanced humans could do. The Kethver would spend decades perfecting a single design, it told Emma. "You humans look at our work and immediately see ways to make it better." "This should not be possible," Emma smiled. "Maybe that's because we don't know enough to realize what's supposed to be impossible." The enhanced humans began working with teams of regular scientists and engineers. Together they started building weapons and defenses that were part human innovation and part alien technology. The results were unlike anything either species had created. Alone, Dr. Kim designed energy shields that could adapt their frequency in real time, something the Kethver had never thought to try. Colonel Martinez created fighter ships that could change their shape during flight, becoming faster or more maneuverable as needed. Emma developed communication systems that could coordinate thousands of units instantly while remaining completely unpredictable to outside observers. "The Devourers will not understand these designs," Axiom said. "They are based on chaos and randomness instead of logic and order. This gives us an advantage the Kethver never had." But time was running short. Axiom's long-range sensors detected the first Devourer scout ships entering the outer edge of the solar system. They were still months away from Earth, but their presence meant the main invasion fleet was not far behind. Sarah stood in the command center that had been built around Axiom's ship. Screens showed the progress of dozens of projects around the world. Humans were building alien weapons in factories, training with alien technology in military bases, and preparing for a war unlike anything in human history. "How many ships do we have ready?" she asked Emma, Emma's glowing eyes focused on data streams that only she could see. 300 fighters, 50 destroyers, and 10 command ships. It sounds like a lot, but Axiom says a typical Devourer invasion fleet has over 10,000 vessels. Agent Morrison, who had become the coordinator between the military and the scientists, looked grim. "What about ground defenses?" "Better," Emma replied. "We've built shield generators for every major city, and our ground weapons can punch through. Devourer armor, but the real advantage is our soldiers." Over the past months, volunteers from every nation's military had undergone neural enhancement. The process had become safer as Dr. Kim improved the interface technology, but it was still dangerous. 1 in every 4 volunteers did not survive. Those who did survive became super soldiers in the truest sense. They could think faster, react quicker, and coordinate with alien technology as naturally as breathing. But more importantly, they retained their human creativity and unpredictability. "Show me," Sarah said. Emma led her to a training ground where enhanced soldiers were sparring with alien combat systems. Sarah watched in amazement as human fighters used Kethver weapons in ways that defied the original design specifications. Sergeant Johnson wielded an energy rifle like a sword, using its beam to cut through obstacles instead of just shooting through them. Lieutenant Torres had modified her armor's power system to create electromagnetic pulses that disabled enemy equipment. Captain Brown had figured out how to link multiple weapon systems together, creating combination attacks that were more powerful than the sum of their parts. "The Kethver built each weapon for one specific purpose," Emma explained. "Humans see every weapon as a tool that can be used in 100 different ways." Axiom's voice spoke through the training ground speakers. "I have observed these humans for months now, and I still cannot predict what they will do next. This randomness was the Kethver's weakness, but it appears to be humanity's greatest strength." Sarah felt a mixture of pride and fear. "Are we ready?" Emma's expression grew serious. "Axiom's latest sensor readings show the main Devourer fleet has entered the outer solar system. They'll reach Earth in 6 weeks. 6 weeks?" Sarah felt her heart sink. "You said we had 18 months? We did. But the Devourers are moving faster than Axiom expected." They must have detected our preparations somehow. Agent Morrison joined them, holding a tablet with urgent reports. We're getting strange readings from observatories around the world. Something big is moving between Jupiter and Saturn. Emma closed her eyes and connected directly to Axiom's sensor network. When she opened them again, the blue glow was brighter than ever. It's them, she said. The advance fleet. 50 ships, heading straight for Earth. They'll be here in 2 weeks. Sarah felt the weight of the entire human race on her shoulders. 2 weeks to test everything we've built against an enemy that destroyed a galactic empire. Emma looked at the enhanced soldiers training with impossible weapons, at the alien technology that humans had improved beyond recognition, at the chaotic mix of logic and creativity that had become humanity's new way of war. Axiom, she called out, do you think we have a chance? The alien AI was quiet for a long moment. The Kethver were the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever seen. They had perfect technology, perfect strategies, perfect coordination. The Devourers destroyed them in less than a century. Sarah's heart sank, but Emma was smiling. But, Axiom continued, the Kethver were never this unpredictable. They never improved our technology this quickly. They never thought of using weapons in ways we never intended. If any species in the galaxy can defeat the Devourers, it will be humanity. Emma turned to Sarah. We're not going to fight them the way the Kethver did. We're going to fight them like humans. And that's going to make all the difference. Outside, the first Devourer scout ships crossed the orbit of Mars, and humanity prepared for its first real test as a spacefaring species. The first Devourer ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. They came not as individual vessels, but as a living swarm, their black hulls flowing and changing shape like liquid metal. Each ship was the size of a city, and there were hundreds of them. Emma stood in the command center, her enhanced mind processing data from 1,000 different sources at once. The blue glow in her eyes had grown brighter over the past weeks, and now it pulsed like a heartbeat. They're not attacking yet, she reported to Sarah and the gathered military commanders. They're studying us, learning our patterns. General Hayes, the top military officer for the Earth Defense Force, studied the tactical displays. How long do we have? Emma's connection to Axiom allowed her to feel the alien ship's intentions like a cold wind. Hours, maybe less. They're analyzing our cities, our technology, our defenses. When they understand us completely, they'll strike. Then we strike first, Colonel Martinez said. He was suited up in his neural interface armor, ready to pilot one of the hybrid human Kethver fighters. No, Emma said firmly. That's exactly what they expect. Every species they've conquered attacked first when they felt threatened. The Devourers have learned to use that aggression against their enemies. Sarah looked at the screens showing the alien swarm. So what do we do? Emma smiled, and for a moment she looked like the young woman who had first studied alien symbols in a hole in Siberian ice. We do something they've never seen before. We wait, and when they attack, we respond in ways that make no sense. The Devourer attack began at sunset. Their ships descended through the atmosphere like falling stars, but instead of crashing, they slowed and began systematically targeting Earth's major cities. Their weapons were unlike anything humans had seen, beams of energy that didn't just destroy buildings but broke them down at the molecular level, absorbing the materials into the alien ships themselves. New York was hit first. The Empire State Building simply dissolved under a purple beam, its steel and concrete flowing up into the Devourer ship like smoke. London followed, then Tokyo, then Moscow. Each attack fed the alien vessels, making them larger and stronger. Now, Emma said, all units, begin Operation Chaos. The human response was unlike anything the Devourers had encountered in their conquest of hundreds of worlds. Instead of large, coordinated counterattacks, small groups of enhanced humans began striking at seemingly random targets. They didn't try to protect the major cities. Instead, they hit power plants, water treatment facilities, communication towers, targets that seemed unimportant. Dr. Kim had designed the strategy based on a simple, human principle. When you can't win a fair fight, change the rules. Sergeant Johnson's team struck a Devourer ship that was feeding on the ruins of Chicago. But instead of attacking the ship directly, they destroyed the building the ship was consuming. The alien vessel, caught in the middle of its feeding process, stumbled like a person who had just been punched while eating. "It worked," Johnson reported over the chaotic radio channels. "The ship lost power for 30 seconds when we disrupted. It's feeding." Similar reports came in from around the world. Captain Torres discovered that Devourer ships became vulnerable when they were converting matter. Lieutenant Brown found that their energy shields couldn't adapt to rapidly changing attack frequencies. Master Sergeant Wang realized that the alien ships had blind spots directly above them, something no previous enemy had thought to exploit, but the human victories were small ones. For every Devourer ship that was damaged, 10 more continued their systematic destruction of Earth cities. By the end of the first day, a quarter of humanity's population centers were gone. "We're losing," General Hayes said during an emergency meeting in the underground command bunker. Emma disagreed. "We're learning. Every attack teaches us something new about how they work." The Kethver tried to match the Devourer's power with power of their own. "We're not trying to be stronger than them. We're trying to be more confusing." Sarah looked at the casualty reports scrolling across the screens. Millions of people were dead or missing. At what cost, Emma? How many people have to die while we learn? Emma's glowing eyes dimmed for a moment, and Sarah saw the weight of responsibility that the young woman carried. All of them, if we don't find their weakness soon. The breakthrough came on the third day of the invasion. Dr. Kim was studying captured pieces of Devourer technology when she noticed something strange. "They're not just ships," she announced to the command team. "They're a single organism, all of them, connected by some kind of quantum field." Emma immediately understood the implications. A hive mind. That's how they coordinate so perfectly. How they adapt so quickly to new threats. "But if they're all connected," Sarah said slowly, then they all share the same weaknesses," Emma finished. "When we confuse one ship, we confuse them all a little bit. When we do something truly unpredictable, the whole swarm has to stop and figure out what we're doing." Emma closed her eyes and connected to Axiom's vast data networks. She could feel the alien AI's excitement as it processed this new information. "Axiom says this explains why they always win," Emma reported. "Other species fight them like they're fighting an army. But you can't fight a hive mind like an army. You have to fight it like you're fighting a single, very large brain." "How do you fight?" "A brain?" General Hayes asked. Emma opened her eyes, and they blazed with blue fire. "You give it too much to think about all at once." The new strategy was called Operation Overload. Instead of coordinated attacks on strategic targets, every human military unit was ordered to do something completely random at exactly the same time. Fighter pilots were told to attack in spirals instead of straight lines. Ground forces were ordered to retreat when they should advance and advance when they should retreat. Engineers were instructed to build weapons that served no apparent purpose. The effect on the Devourer swarm was immediate and dramatic. Ships that had been moving with perfect coordination began to stutter and slow. Their weapons became less accurate. Some ships even began attacking each other as the hive mind struggled to process thousands of contradictory inputs. "It's working," Colonel Martinez reported from his fighter. "The Devourers are hesitating before every decision. I can see them trying to figure out what we're doing. But the human forces were paying a heavy price for their chaos strategy. Without coordination, many units were destroyed by friendly fire or found themselves cut off from support. The enhanced soldiers could handle the confusion, but regular human forces struggled with orders that seemed designed to get them killed. We're hurting ourselves as much as we're hurting them, Agent Morrison pointed out. Emma nodded grimly. Chaos is a weapon that cuts both ways. But we heal from it faster than they do. Humans are used to confusion. We live with it every day. The Devourers have spent millions of years as a perfect hive mind. This kind of disorder is poison to them. On the 5th day of the invasion, something unprecedented happened. A Devourer ship broke formation and fled the solar system. Then another. Within hours, a third of the invasion fleet was retreating, their hive mind overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human resistance, but the remaining ships adapted. They began operating in smaller groups, reducing their connection to the hive mind to protect themselves from the chaos feedback. This made them weaker individually, but harder to confuse. "They're learning," Sarah observed. Emma's expression grew determined. "Then we need to teach them something they'll never forget." She turned to the assembled commanders. "Axiom has been analyzing their retreat pattern. The ships that fled aren't going back to report to their main fleet. They're going to a rally point just outside the solar system, waiting for reinforcements." "How many reinforcements?" General Hayes asked. Emma's face went pale. "Axiom estimates 50,000 ships, the entire Devourer fleet that destroyed the Kethver Empire. They'll be here in 72 hours. The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The advanced fleet they had been fighting was just a scouting force. The real invasion was yet to come. 72 hours to prepare for 50,000 ships, Sarah said quietly. Emma looked at the screens showing the battered remains of human civilization. Half the world's major cities were gone, but the other half still stood. Millions were dead, but billions survived. And in those billions she saw something the Devourers had never encountered before. "Enough," Emma said. "We have enough time to show them what happens when you try to eat a species that refuses to be predictable." The main Devourer fleet arrived exactly when Axiom predicted. 50,000 ships emerged from the darkness beyond Plateau, their black hulls blotting out the stars. Each vessel was larger than the scouts that had attacked Earth, some the size of small moons. Emma stood in the rebuilt command center, but she was no longer entirely human. The neural interface had changed her over the months of constant connection to Axiom systems. Her skin had a faint blue glow, and when she moved, it was with the precise grace of someone who thought faster than normal time. "They're different this time," she reported to Sarah and the gathered survivors of Earth's leadership. "The main fleet is more careful, more controlled. They learned from what happened to their scouts." Sarah looked older than her years. The stress of leading humanity's defense had aged her, but her eyes still held the same determination that had driven her to dig deeper into the Siberian ice. "Can we use the same chaos tactics?" General Hayes asked. Hoff's face was covered by a mechanical device that helped him think faster, one of the many human Kethver hybrid technologies developed during the brief respite. Emma shook her head. "They're prepared for that now. Look." The screen showed the approaching fleet. Instead of moving as one massive hive mind, the ships traveled in small groups that seemed to operate independently. Each group moved differently, unpredictably. "They're copying us," Dr. Kim observed. She was now more machine than human, her body enhanced with Kethver technology to help her design weapons faster than any normal person could think. "They're trying to be chaotic, too." "But they're doing it wrong," Emma said with a smile that was both human and something more. "They think chaos is just randomness? They don't understand that human chaos has a purpose hidden inside it." Over the past 72 hours, something remarkable had happened to the surviving human forces. The constant stress of fighting an impossible enemy had triggered changes that even Axiom couldn't explain. Enhanced humans were developing new abilities without any modification to their neural interfaces. Regular humans were learning to work with alien technology as naturally as breathing. Colonel Martinez could now pilot 3 different ships at once through his neural link. Sergeant Johnson had developed the ability to predict Devourer movements by feeling the flow of the battle around him. Dr. Kim was building weapons that shouldn't work but did, combining human intuition with alien science in ways that defied both species' understanding. "We're evolving," Emma told Axiom during one of their mental conversations. "Not just adapting to your technology, but becoming something new." "I have observed this," Axiom replied. "Your species is changing faster than should be possible. The stress of combat is accelerating mutations that would normally take thousands of years. Is that why you really came to Earth?" Emma asked. Not just to find fighters, but to find a species that could become something the Devourers have never faced. Axiom was quiet for a long moment. I did not know this would happen, but perhaps some part of my programming hoped for it. The first phase of the main invasion began with a coordinated attack on every remaining human settlement simultaneously. The Devourers had learned that humans were most dangerous when they had time to plan unpredictable responses, so they tried to overwhelm Earth with sheer numbers, but humanity was ready with a response that defied every rule of warfare the galaxy had ever known. Execute Plan Impossible, Emma ordered. Across the Earth, human forces did things that made no tactical sense. Fighters flew directly into the largest enemy formations instead of avoiding them. Ground forces abandoned their defensive positions to attack ships in orbit using weapons that shouldn't be able to reach that far. Cities that were under attack suddenly went completely dark, as if they had been abandoned, but every impossible action was part of a larger pattern that only the enhanced humans could see. Emma and her team had spent the 72 hours of preparation creating a battle plan that was part strategy and part art, designed to work not because it was logical, but because it was beautifully, perfectly chaotic. When Colonel Martinez flew his fighter directly into a formation of 100 Devourer ships, he wasn't committing suicide. He was carrying a weapon that Dr. Kim had built in her last fevered days of creation, a device that turned the enemy's own feeding mechanisms against them. As the Devourers tried to consume his ship, the weapon activated and spread like a virus through their quantum connection, causing dozens of ships to begin consuming each other instead of their target. When Sergeant Johnson led his ground forces in a charge toward orbit, they weren't using impossible weapons. They were using Kethver teleportation technology that Dr. Kim had modified to work with human neural patterns. One moment they were on the ground, the next they were inside Devourer ships, fighting battles in corridors that had never been designed for boarding actions. When cities went dark, they weren't surrendering. They were using Axiom's stealth technology to hide entire populations while underground factories worked at impossible speeds to build more hybrid weapons. The Devourer fleet, faced with enemies that appeared and disappeared, weapons that worked in impossible ways, and tactics that seemed to have no purpose, began to make mistakes for the first time in their species' history. "They're confused," Emma reported as she monitored the battle through her connection to thousands of human forces. "The hive mind is spending more time trying to understand us than fighting us. But the cost was terrible. For every impossible victory, dozens of human heroes died. Earth's remaining cities were being systematically destroyed, and the planet's surface was becoming unrecognizable. Sarah watched the casualty reports, scroll past, and felt the weight of every death. Are we winning or losing? Emma's glowing eyes tracked data streams that showed the true scope of the battle. Both were losing the war for Earth, but we're winning something more important. What? We're teaching them to be afraid? The turning point came when Emma made a decision that shocked even Axiom. Instead of continuing to defend Earth, she ordered every remaining human force to abandon the planet and attack the Devourer fleet directly. "That is suicide," Axiom protested. "Your species will be extinct." "No," Emma said. "Our species will become something new." Using Kethver technology that had been modified beyond recognition, the surviving humans launched themselves into space not in ships but as living weapons. Their bodies had been so enhanced by months of neural interface evolution that they could survive in vacuum, process information faster than computers, and interface directly with any technology they touched. Emma led the charge, her body surrounded by a field of blue energy as she flew toward the largest Devourer ship. Behind her came thousands of evolved humans, each one a unique hybrid of human creativity and alien capability. When they reached the enemy fleet, they didn't attack the ships, they infected them. The enhanced humans flowed through the Devourer vessels like a virus, but instead of destroying the alien technology, they began changing it, improving it, making it do things its creators had never imagined. For the first time in millions of years, Devourer ships began to act unpredictably. Some turned on their fellows. Others began building instead of destroying. A few simply stopped moving and began broadcasting. Poetry in languages that had never existed before. The hive mind that had conquered hundreds of civilizations found itself fighting an enemy that didn't just resist assimilation. It turned the very concept of assimilation inside out. Impossible, the collective Devour consciousness spoke for the first time in its existence, broadcasting confusion and fear across quantum frequencies. Emma, now more energy than matter, appeared in the central chamber of the fleet's command ship. She faced the core of the Devourer hive mind, a massive organic computer that had been calculating the destruction of civilizations for eons. "You're right," she said. "We are impossible. That's what makes us human." She reached out and touched the alien computer. Instantly, 50,000 years of human creativity, chaos, and hope flooded into the hive mind. The Devourers experienced art for the first time, felt the joy of discovery, understood the beauty of making something instead of consuming it. The change was instantaneous and irreversible. Across the fleet, Devourer ships began to transform. Some became gardens floating in space. Others turned into schools where the absorbed knowledge of hundreds of civilizations could be taught instead of hoarded. Many simply flew away to explore the galaxy not as conquerors but as students. Sarah stood on what remained of Earth and watched the transformed fleet dispersing across the solar system. Some ships stayed to help rebuild the damaged planet. Others departed for distant stars, carrying human consciousness fused with alien capability to worlds that had never known hope. "What happens now?" she asked Emma, who appeared beside her as a shimmering hologram. "Now we do what humans do best," Emma replied. "We spread across the galaxy and make it more interesting than it ever thought possible." "Axiom, it's 50,000 year?" "Mission finally complete," spoke one last time from its damaged ship. The Kethver believed that intelligence was about finding the perfect solution. "You have taught me that intelligence is about finding solutions that no one else would ever think to try." Emma smiled, her form flickering between human and something beyond.